The conference room was silent, except for the rhythmic tapping of fingers against the polished glass table. The tension hung thick in the air, so palpable it felt like the room itself was holding its breath. Across from the table, Oliver Grant, the new CEO of TechWorks, leaned forward, his sharp eyes scanning the faces of the executives and managers sitting before him. His expression was unreadable, like a predator sizing up its prey. "I'll ask again," Oliver's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. "Who wrote this code?" His eyes locked onto each person in the room, one by one, daring them to speak. But no one moved. No one answered. A digital display flashed behind him, showing a line of flawless code that had propelled TechWorks to a major breakthrough, a groundbreaking project that could redefine their place in the tech world. A project that had catapulted the company into the spotlight. Yet the author? A mystery. 5 minutes. "I want the name." Now, Oliver's voice was ice-cold, his command leaving no room for debate. The executives shifted uncomfortably in their seats, avoiding eye contact with one another. The air was thick with fear, uncertainty, and confusion. They'd all seen the results, the brilliant code that had unlocked a future TechWorks could only dream of. But none of them could claim credit. One by one, each person began to fidget. Mike, the senior developer, coughed awkwardly. Carmen, the project lead, shifted her weight, eyes glued to her notes. Daniel, the head of operations, pretended to check his phone, all while keeping his head down. The silence stretched on, too long to ignore, and the room was beginning to suffocate under it. Oliver's gaze narrowed, his eyes now scanning the room, dissecting the faces of those who claimed to lead the company's greatest innovations. But something was off. He could feel it. The truth was hiding somewhere, and it was more than just a missing name on a piece of code. The mystery was deeper than any of them could have anticipated. And then it came, the faintest sound. A soft scraping. The sound of a mop, gliding across the floor. Head snapped to the back of the room, where Mia Thompson, the building's night security guard, stood holding her mop. She'd been unnoticed up until now, blending into the background, just another figure in the quiet expanse of the building. She wore the standard uniform, navy blue, rubber gloves, a headband, and her face was calm, unreadable. It was as though she hadn't heard the rising tension in the room, the demand for answers. As the others glanced at her in confusion, Mia raised her hand. "I did it," she said, her voice steady but clear. "I wrote the code." The silence that followed was deafening. For a split second, no one in the room could process what had just happened. The executive stared at Mia, as though waiting for her to crack a joke. But there was no smile. No laughter. Just the steady hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Mia was still holding her mop, still in the same uniform she'd worn for years, yet she stood in front of the room like she belonged in that seat, like she had always been meant to be there. "Excuse me." Carmen's voice trembled. "You're telling us, you, the janitor, wrote this?" Mia didn't flinch. She simply nodded. "Yes, I wrote it. All of it. I've been working on it during the night shifts for months." Her words hung in the air like a challenge. The room erupted into murmurs. A janitor? A cleaning lady? The woman who walked through the halls at night while they were all home with their families? Oliver stood up, his chair scraping harshly against the floor. He took the paper with the code from the table, held it up to Mia's face, his expression unreadable. His gaze flickered over the complex lines of code that had everyone in the company baffled. "This?" Oliver said, pointing at the code, his voice a low growl. You wrote this? This is a multi-million-dollar project." Mia didn't flinch, didn't back down. "Yes. I did." The room fell silent again. The employees looked at one another, unsure of how to respond. They were all trying to process what Mia was saying. Could it be true? Could the woman they'd never even noticed, the one who cleaned their offices while they slept, be the one behind the breakthrough that could change everything? Oliver's gaze was hard, but there was something else there now, a flicker of respect, perhaps. Or was it disbelief? He couldn't tell. He slowly set the code down and fixed Mia with a steady look. "Why didn't you say something before?" he demanded, the question sharp. "Why keep it hidden?" Mia's eyes met his, unwavering. "Because no one ever asked." Mia's words hung heavy in the room, like a weight no one knew how to lift. The shocked silence stretched longer than any of them could have imagined. The executives exchanged uneasy glances, clearly not sure how to respond. Oliver Grant, the CEO, was the first to speak. His voice had lost some of its earlier sharpness, replaced by something else, an unexpected curiosity. "I need to hear more," Oliver said, his eyes narrowing. "If you wrote this, why are you working here? And why would you hide it?" Mia didn't hesitate. She set the mop down with deliberate care, her calmness in stark contrast to the chaos swirling around her. "I wasn't hiding it," she explained quietly, but firmly. "I just wanted to prove a point. That work should stand on its own, not on who's doing it." Her words struck a chord. There was an honesty to them that none of the high-level executives could easily ignore. "Are you saying," Carmen, the project lead, stammered, "that you've been doing this, at night? While cleaning our offices?" Mia nodded. "Yes. I would come in late, when everyone had gone home. The code came from my head, not the coffee breaks, not the office chatter. I worked in silence." There was a moment of pause as her words settled in. The high-powered employees around the room weren't just hearing her, they were grappling with the fact that this woman, who had spent her days cleaning their messes, had built something that they couldn't even fathom. The following morning, the office buzzed with whispers. It was as though a hurricane had swept through, and everyone was still trying to catch their breath. How could this be real? How could someone like Mia Thompson, a janitor, have created such a brilliant piece of technology? Word spread fast, and soon, the corridors of TechWorks were filled with questions. Some people couldn't believe it, others were fascinated. The employees who had spent the past months battling over complex coding problems now found themselves in the shadow of someone they had overlooked. Mia had been working at TechWorks for years. She had arrived each night, clocking in before the last person left, and had always been invisible to everyone. Her colleagues would nod in acknowledgement as she passed by, but no one ever stopped to ask her anything, certainly not about code. She had heard the jokes, the dismissive comments. "She's just the janitor. She's not one of us." Mia had heard it all, but none of it ever really bothered her. She had a mission. Her mission was always simple: work hard, keep her head down, and, when the time was right, show the world what she could do. As she walked through the halls on that morning, she could feel the eyes on her. The looks were not the same as before. People weren't brushing past her anymore. Now, there were nods of recognition, even hesitation. Mia didn't look at them. She kept walking. After the reveal, things moved quickly. Mia was summoned to a meeting with Oliver Grant and a few other key members of the team. Everyone was talking about her. Oliver's office was sleek and minimalistic, with windows that gave a clear view of the bustling Silicon Valley skyline. Mia stood in front of the massive desk, suddenly feeling out of place, but she didn't flinch. "Okay, Mia," Oliver began, folding his arms. "You've got everyone talking. Now it's time to tell me, what exactly do you want?" Mia's heart beat faster. This was it, the moment that would define everything. She had already proven herself, but now, she had to decide where she went from here. "I want to be heard," she said, her voice steady. "I've spent years working hard, and not once did anyone take the time to ask me about my background. I'm not just a janitor. I'm a coder. I want to be seen as someone who can contribute, someone who can make a real difference. Not because of what job I do, but because of what I know." Oliver leaned back, clearly impressed. "And you're ready to leave this role behind? The janitor job? You want to be part of the development team now? Mia didn't hesitate. Yes. I know I can make a difference. I have the skills. I just need a chance. It didn't take long for Oliver to make a decision. A week after Mia's revelation, the company made a public announcement that sent ripples through the tech world. Mia Thompson, the woman who had been an invisible fixture in the building, would now be part of the TechWorks development team. She was given a lead role on a new project, a critical one that would shape the company's future. The backlash was immediate. Some employees, those who had been in the company for years, were not thrilled by the change. A janitor as a developer, they murmured. But others were excited. They saw potential in Mia. They saw the courage it took for her to stand up and demand her place in a room that had never made space for her. Mia's first day in the new role was both thrilling and daunting. She was now surrounded by the very people who had once dismissed her. But she was undeterred. The transition was tough, no one liked being the outsider, but Mia worked harder than ever. Every line of code she wrote, every meeting she attended, she proved herself. Weeks passed, and Mia's presence in the company began to have a profound impact. She worked tirelessly, often staying late into the night just like she had before, but this time, she wasn't doing it in the shadows. Her work was now visible. Her ideas were respected. Her code was flawless. And then, the first major breakthrough came, a new AI algorithm that Mia developed from scratch. It was faster and more accurate than anything the company had previously produced. The algorithm became the backbone of TechWorks' latest product, one that would soon be unveiled to the public. It was a turning point, both for the company and for Mia. Oliver, watching from the sidelines, was astonished. He'd taken a chance on Mia, but even he hadn't realized how big of a difference she would make. "I told you I could do this," Mia said quietly during a meeting when she presented the new algorithm. "All I needed was a chance." The day of the launch arrived, and with it came the recognition Mia had worked for. TechWorks made history that day, not only because of the product they released, but because they had embraced someone they had once overlooked. Mia Thompson, the former janitor, had broken through the barriers of prejudice and self-doubt. She had proven that talent was not confined to titles or expectations. It could come from anywhere, from anyone, and it didn't matter what your job was. What mattered was your heart, your passion, and your drive. By the time the project was celebrated in a company-wide meeting, Mia stood before her colleagues, not as the janitor they had once known, but as a leader. A developer, a creator, a problem solver. She had changed everything, not just for herself, but for TechWorks, too. As Oliver stood beside her, nodding in agreement, he couldn't help but smile. "You've done it, Mia," he said, shaking his head in awe. "You've made us all rethink everything we thought we knew." Mia smiled back, a quiet confidence in her eyes. This is just the beginning. After Mia's promotion, the tension at TechWorks didn't fade. In fact, it simmered beneath the surface. Some employees couldn't shake the feeling that Mia didn't deserve her position. There were whispered conversations in the hallways and dismissive glances during meetings. Mia, despite her success, was still the new kid in the executive world, and not everyone was ready to accept her. Sandra, the senior developer, made it clear that she was skeptical. Her eyes always lingered on Mia a little longer than necessary, as if she was trying to figure out how the janitor-turned-developer was capable of holding her own against seasoned tech experts. One afternoon, Mia was working late in her new office, a corner space with a wide view of the city. She had just finished a brainstorming session with her team, and while the rest of the office emptied, she stayed behind to refine the code for the next big product launch. The low hum of the building, the quiet clatter of the keyboard, and the dim lights were all she needed to focus. But then the knock came. It was gentle but insistent. Mia looked up, startled. Standing in the doorway was Sandra. "You're still here?" Sandra asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Don't you have a life outside of work?" Mia smiled politely. "I do. But the work's not done yet." Sandra didn't smile back. "I'm curious," she said, stepping into the room. "How do you do it? How do you manage to pull this off without anyone noticing?" Mia set her hands on her desk, her gaze steady. "I just keep working. Focus on what matters, not on the noise around me." Sandra looked her over with a skeptical eye, then sighed. "I'm not sure how long this is going to last. People don't just go from cleaning floors to running projects. You've got to have something more than just passion to back it up." Mia leaned back in her chair. "Maybe I do. Maybe you're just looking at things the wrong way." Sandra raised an eyebrow, clearly challenged by Mia's words. But before she could respond, Mia turned back to her screen, signaling the end of the conversation. Sandra lingered for a moment longer, clearly uneasy, before walking out without another word. Mia's first big challenge came sooner than expected. TechWorks had secured a massive new contract with one of the top healthcare providers, and the project required a whole new suite of software solutions. This was no small task, it was going to push the company's limits, and it would be a defining moment for Mia's career. The project team was made up of some of the brightest minds at TechWorks, and Mia was assigned to lead the charge. She was now responsible for creating a system that could handle massive amounts of sensitive data while being intuitive enough for healthcare professionals to use seamlessly. As the project began, Mia quickly realized that it wasn't just about technology. It was about navigating the politics of her own company. Some team members were supportive, eager to work with her. Others, like Sandra, remained distant, even openly dismissive. Mia could feel their skepticism in every meeting, in every glance. It wasn't easy, but she had made it this far by believing in herself, and she wasn't about to back down now. Then came the first major setback. One of the developers working on the system's interface made a mistake that led to a major crash in the system during a test phase. It wasn't a small issue. The data was compromised, potentially putting the entire project at risk. When Oliver Grant called an emergency meeting to address the issue, Mia could feel the weight of all eyes on her. She wasn't just a new leader anymore. Now, she was responsible for fixing this monumental error. "Explain," Oliver said bluntly, his eyes focused on her. "How do you plan to fix this?" Mia's heart raced. The pressure was suffocating, but she forced herself to speak, her voice calm and confident. "I'll get it fixed. I know where the problem lies. I'll work with the team, pull the logs, and find the root cause." Sandra crossed her arms and smirked, clearly unconvinced. "This isn't something you can solve overnight. Do you even know the full scope of what's at stake here?" Mia met Sandra's gaze, unflinching. "I'm aware of the stakes. And I'm going to fix it. This isn't just about coding, it's about trust." There was a moment of silence as Oliver considered Mia's words. Finally, he nodded. "All right. We trust you. Don't disappoint us." Mia walked out of that meeting feeling the weight of her responsibility on her shoulders. But as the door closed behind her, something changed. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She gathered her team and stayed late into the night. The pressure was high, but her focus was sharper than ever. By the time dawn broke, they had isolated the issue. It wasn't just a simple fix, it was a design flaw that had been overlooked during the earlier stages. But Mia knew how to tackle it. She rewrote the problematic code and tested it meticulously. By the next morning, the system was up and running smoothly. Mia's heart raced with excitement. This was the first real test of her leadership, and she had passed. But she knew this was just the beginning. There would be more challenges ahead, and she had to be ready for whatever came next. Word about Mia's handling of the crisis spread quickly. The project was back on track, and TechWorks was closer than ever to meeting its deadline. For the first time, Mia's team began to see her not just as the janitor turned coder, but as someone who had earned her place. Sandra, however, wasn't so easily convinced. One afternoon, as Mia was walking out of a meeting with Oliver, Sandra cornered her by the elevator. The tension between them had been simmering for weeks, and now it felt like it was about to boil over. "Impressive," Sandra said, her voice laced with sarcasm. "But don't think this means you've won. People like you don't just lead." Mia turned to face her, her calm demeanor unwavering. "People like me," she repeated, tilting her head slightly. "Maybe people like me are exactly what this company needs right now." Sandra's eyes narrowed. "You'll see. It's one thing to fix a broken system. It's another to run one." Mia smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Then let's see who runs it better." As Sandra walked away, Mia knew this wasn't the end of her journey. Sandra's words stung, but they only fueled her determination. She wasn't just going to prove herself to her colleagues, she was going to prove herself to the whole world. By the time TechWorks launched the new software for their healthcare client, Mia's reputation had been solidified. The project was a success, not just because of the product, but because of how Mia had led the charge. Oliver called her into his office once more, his expression more relaxed than it had been during their first meeting. "You did it, Mia," he said, handing her a glass of water. "You've changed everything." Mia took the glass, feeling the weight of his words. "We did it," she corrected him, a smile tugging at her lips. "I couldn't have done it without the team." Oliver nodded, but his gaze softened. "There's something different about you. You've made us all rethink what we thought we knew about talent, about leadership." Mia looked out the window, her mind racing. This was just the beginning, and she wasn't about to stop now. The world had underestimated her for too long. And now, it was time to show them all what she could do. It wasn't long before Mia Thompson became a name people started talking about, not just within TechWorks, but across the tech industry. She had proven herself in ways that no one could ignore. But as her reputation grew, so did the pressure. Now, Mia wasn't just a team leader, she was a symbol, both for those who believed in her and for those who wanted to tear her down. The whispers in the halls of TechWorks hadn't stopped. Every time she passed by, she could feel eyes on her. Some were filled with admiration. Others? Not so much. But Mia wasn't bothered. She had a job to do. Her next task was even bigger than the last. TechWorks had been selected to provide a groundbreaking new piece of software for the Department of Defense, a project that could potentially change the future of military technology. The stakes were higher than ever. Oliver Grant called her into his office one morning. His eyes were serious, more than they had been before. As the door closed behind Mia, the weight of the situation seemed to settle over her like a heavy blanket. "This is the big one, Mia," Oliver said, leaning back in his chair. "The DoD project. It's going to push everything we've done so far. And it's your team I'm counting on." Mia nodded, her confidence unwavering. "I'm ready." Oliver studied her for a moment. "I know you are. But there's something you need to understand. Not everyone is behind this. There are people here who think you're not qualified, that you're not ready for something this huge." The words hit her like a blow, but Mia didn't flinch. "They'll see what I can do." Oliver hesitated, then spoke again. "I need you to be prepared. There's a lot riding on this, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Some people want you to fail." Mia's gaze never wavered. "Let them try." As Mia's team worked tirelessly on the DoD project, cracks began to show in the smooth facade of the company's operations. Sandra, still bitter about Mia's rise, took every opportunity to undermine her at meetings. Mia could feel the tension rise, but she kept her focus on the work. One afternoon, while reviewing some of the preliminary designs with her team, Sandra stepped in, her voice sharp. "Are we really going to put this forward?" Sandra asked, eyes narrowing as she looked at the screen. "This is a complete mess. We can't present this to the DoD. It's sloppy." Mia didn't let the criticism faze her. "It's not finished yet, Sandra. We still have time to make adjustments. The feedback will help us fine-tune." Sandra's lips curled into a skeptical smile. I just don't think this is the kind of work we want to be known for, Mia. The dig was clear, and the tension in the room thickened. Mia knew what Sandra was trying to do. But this time, Mia wasn't going to let her get away with it. Sandra, if you have concerns, feel free to bring them up with the team, Mia said, her voice calm but firm. But undermining my leadership in front of everyone isn't going to help anyone. The room went quiet. Sandra glared at her for a moment, but Mia held her ground. She was used to people doubting her, questioning her worth. But now, she had a responsibility, not just to the project, but to her team. Sandra's eyes flickered with a mix of frustration and contempt. Fine, she said, turning on her heel. I'll let you do things your way. Mia exhaled, relieved that the confrontation was over. But she knew that this was only the beginning. The real challenge was coming. Sandra wasn't going to let up, and neither was anyone else who resented Mia's success. With the DoD project nearing its final stages, the stakes were higher than ever. The team was working at full capacity, each day blending into the next as they pushed toward the finish line. Mia knew this was her moment, not just to prove her skills, but to show the company that she could lead them into the future. However, a major issue arose late one evening when Mia and her team were testing the new security protocols. The system was supposed to be foolproof, but a serious vulnerability was discovered. If left unchecked, it could compromise the entire project. The pressure was immediate. There was no room for error, and the countdown to the final presentation was ticking down. Mia gathered her team, her voice calm but resolute. We fix this tonight. No matter what. She worked through the night with her team, sifting through layers of code, trying to find the vulnerability. Tension hung heavy in the air. Mia knew the solution was close, but each moment felt like an eternity. Then, just before dawn, Mia spotted it. A small, overlooked line of code buried deep within the system. It was nothing anyone had noticed before, but it was enough to cause the vulnerability. With the fix implemented, Mia held her breath as they ran the final tests. It passed. The system was secure. They had done it. As the team sat back, exhausted but relieved, Mia felt a rush of satisfaction. This was her moment. She had led them through a crisis, and now they had a product that would not only impress the DoD but also prove once and for all that she was capable of leading on a global scale. But even as she basked in the relief of success, she knew this wouldn't be the end. The world was watching, and the next challenge was always just around the corner. The DoD project launch was a resounding success. Mia's team had delivered a cutting-edge product that exceeded expectations. The press coverage was overwhelmingly positive, and TechWorks saw a surge in new clients and opportunities. But the celebrations were short-lived. The success of the project had catapulted Mia into the spotlight, and with it came new challenges. One afternoon, Mia received an invitation to a TechWorks board meeting, something she had never been a part of. She was nervous, but she knew this was the next step in her journey. The board was going to discuss the future of the company, and Mia was expected to be there, representing the development team. As she entered the meeting, she was met with a sea of unfamiliar faces. The board members were some of the highest-ranking people in the tech world, all seated around a large table, their eyes fixed on her. Ms. Thompson, the board chair began. You've proven yourself in the last year. Your leadership has been exemplary. We're here to discuss your future at TechWorks. The conversation turned to potential roles for Mia within the company. The board was impressed by her work, and they wanted to give her a chance to lead the company's expansion into new markets. The decision was ultimately hers to make. Mia sat back, listening to the conversation unfold. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on her. This was the ultimate test of everything she had worked for. The decision she made today would change the course of her life, and the future of TechWorks. Before I make any decision, Mia said, standing up, her voice steady and confident, I want to make one thing clear, I'm here to lead. Not just to take on a title or a role, but to build something that lasts. The room fell silent. Mia's words echoed in the space, and for the first time in this meeting, everyone was listening. She knew that this was more than just a job. This was her chance to reshape the future of TechWorks, to redefine what it meant to be a leader, and to prove to everyone, including herself, that she was exactly where she belonged. Mia's decision to move forward with a leadership role at TechWorks felt like a natural progression, but it wasn't without its challenges. As her responsibilities increased, so did the expectations. She had successfully navigated the DoD project, but now she was faced with something that was much harder to quantify: navigating the political landscape within the company. It wasn't just about coding anymore. It was about managing people, balancing egos, and convincing others that she was just as capable of leading as she was at coding. One of the first major challenges came during a meeting with marketing. They were working on the next product launch, and the tension in the room was palpable. "You really think this software is ready for the mass market?" Jason, the head of marketing, questioned, his tone sharp. "We need to make sure it appeals to a much broader audience. It's not just about the tech, it's about selling the story." Mia stood at the head of the table, her posture straight, her expression calm. "Jason, I understand your point, but we're not compromising the integrity of the product. We need to stay true to the technology while making sure the story is aligned with what the product actually does." Jason didn't back down. "I'm just saying, if we don't play it right, no one's going to buy it. Not everyone cares about the code behind it. They care about what it can do for them." Mia paused, considering his words. The product's value isn't just in its features. It's in the impact it'll have on the users. Let's not lose sight of that. The conversation grew more heated, but Mia didn't give in. She understood the importance of both sides, tech and marketing, but she wasn't going to let anyone push her into making compromises. She was in this to build something real, something that could stand the test of time. As the meeting wrapped up, Jason shot Mia a look that seemed to say he wasn't convinced. But Mia knew that was just part of the battle. She was here to stay, and she was going to make sure her vision was seen through, no matter what. Despite Mia's best efforts, the political challenges within TechWorks only intensified. Some colleagues were still not convinced that someone with her background, someone who had spent years cleaning floors, was worthy of the position she held now. The conflict with Sandra had never truly gone away. Although she wasn't openly sabotaging Mia anymore, Sandra found subtle ways to undermine her. During a team meeting about an upcoming client demo, Sandra suggested that Mia's approach was too risky. "Are we really going to take such a big chance? This could backfire," Sandra said, her tone almost too casual. Mia didn't flinch. "I'm aware of the risks. But sometimes, in order to make progress, you have to take calculated risks." Sandra's eyes narrowed as she glanced around the room, clearly trying to gauge how the others reacted to her words. Mia could see right through it. Sandra wasn't just being cautious, she was trying to plant seeds of doubt. After the meeting, Mia found herself alone in the office. As she sat in front of her computer, going over the demo slides, she heard a knock at the door. It was Oliver. "Mia, we need to talk." Mia looked up from her screen. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Oliver walked in and closed the door behind him. "I know things have been tense, especially with Sandra. But I need you to stay focused. We've got a big launch coming, and I need you at your best." Mia met his gaze. "I'm not worried about Sandra." Oliver raised an eyebrow. "You should be. She's not the only one questioning your leadership. There are others who feel the same way." Mia leaned back in her chair, considering his words carefully. "I'll prove them wrong." Oliver nodded. "That's why I'm counting on you. Don't let anyone shake your confidence. You've earned your place here." Just when Mia thought she was starting to get a handle on things, a new challenge emerged. It came in the form of a surprise board of directors meeting called by Oliver. The topic? Mia's future at the company. The meeting was tense, and Mia could feel the weight of it pressing down on her as she walked into the room. The board of directors was made up of powerful individuals, many of whom had been in the tech industry for decades. Their gazes were intense, each one sizing her up as if they were deciding her fate. Ms. Thompson, the chair of the board, Richard Markham, began, "You've achieved impressive results. The DoD project was a milestone, and we're all grateful for your leadership. But now, we have to consider the next step for TechWorks. Are you truly ready to take us to the next level?" Mia's heart pounded in her chest, but she held her composure. "Yes. I've already started working on the next phase of development. I have plans for expanding into new markets, new products that will keep us ahead of the competition." Richard studied her for a moment before responding. "You've done well, but there's a lot of skepticism among some of the investors. You're still seen as an outsider. Someone who's not part of the traditional tech elite." Mia refused to let the comment rattle her. "I'm not here to fit into anyone's mold. I'm here to build something that lasts, and I'm not going to let anyone's doubt stop me." The room fell silent. The tension was palpable, but Mia didn't back down. "I believe in the future of TechWorks, and I believe in our team. If you want to move forward, I'm the right person to lead us." Oliver watched the exchange, his expression unreadable. Finally, Richard nodded. "Very well. We'll take your proposal into consideration. But be warned, there are those who will challenge your every move." Mia stood tall, knowing this was just the beginning of the power struggles she would face. But she was ready. She wasn't just going to prove herself to the board, to TechWorks, or to the investors. She was going to prove that someone like her, someone who had been overlooked and underestimated, could build a legacy in an industry that had always been out of reach. Weeks passed, and the pressure didn't let up. Mia kept working, day and night, refining her plans and continuing to lead the team. Despite the ongoing resistance from certain quarters, she pushed forward. The company's next big product was starting to take shape, and Mia had a vision for it, a vision that would set TechWorks apart in the crowded tech industry. But things weren't going to be easy. Sandra continued to sow doubt within the team, and the board of directors was growing increasingly restless. They wanted results, and they wanted them fast. Mia wasn't about to back down. She spent countless hours meeting with her team, addressing concerns, and making sure everyone was on the same page. She knew the stakes were high, but she also knew that she had the ability to turn things around. Then, the moment arrived, the final presentation for the new product. Mia stood before the board and investors, ready to present the culmination of months of hard work. As the final slides were shown, the room went silent. Mia could see the skepticism in the eyes of some board members, but there was something else there too, curiosity. They were watching, waiting for her to prove that she could deliver. The presentation ended, and for a moment, no one spoke. Then Richard Markham stood up and clapped his hands slowly. "Well done, Mia. I didn't think you had it in you. You've earned my respect." Mia smiled, feeling the weight lift off her shoulders. The battle wasn't over, but she had taken a major step forward. This time, she had proven to herself and to everyone else that she belonged. The days after the DoD project launch were a whirlwind. TechWorks had gained a level of recognition Mia never expected. Media outlets were running stories, investors were knocking on the door, and the company was positioned for something bigger than they'd ever imagined. But with success came expectations. Mia felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. The board had given her a mandate to not just lead the company, but to revolutionize their next product. The stakes were sky high, and every decision she made felt like it could either skyrocket the company to new heights or bring everything crashing down. The office was busy, as always, but Mia could sense a growing tension among her team. Her role had transformed from just a project leader to the company's figurehead, and the pressure was starting to affect her relationships with her colleagues. She'd lost some of the camaraderie she'd once enjoyed, and now, many of her teammates seemed to expect her to be the perfect leader, the one who always had the answers. One afternoon, Carmen, her trusted project lead, pulled Mia aside. "Hey, are you okay?" Carmen asked, her tone more concerned than casual. Mia gave her a tight smile. "Of course. Just a little busy." Carmen didn't buy it. "I know you're holding everything together, but you don't have to do it alone. If you need to talk, I'm here." Mia nodded, appreciating the gesture. "Thanks, Carmen. I'll keep that in mind." But deep down, Mia knew she had to keep pushing forward. She couldn't let anyone see her cracking under the pressure. She had to be strong, not just for herself, but for the entire company. Mia's growing influence, however, wasn't appreciated by everyone. One late evening, while Mia was reviewing a set of new product designs, she received an anonymous email. It was a leaked document, one that contained confidential information about TechWorks' upcoming product. The document was riddled with mistakes and inaccuracies that could seriously damage the company's credibility. Mia stared at the screen, her pulse quickening. This wasn't a simple mistake. This was sabotage. She quickly traced the document's source. The results shocked her. The file came from Sandra's account. Mia's mind raced. Sandra had always been critical of her leadership, but this felt personal. It wasn't just a professional difference of opinion, this was an attack on Mia's credibility. That night, Mia couldn't sleep. She knew what she had to do, but confronting Sandra would put everything at risk. Still, the company's future depended on her making the right move. The next day, Mia called Sandra into her office. "What's this?" Mia asked, showing her the document. Sandra's eyes flickered for a split second, just long enough for Mia to see the guilt in her expression. Sandra stiffened. "I have no idea what you're talking about." Mia leaned forward, her voice firm. "I know it came from your account, Sandra. You need to tell me the truth." Sandra's face turned pale, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she seemed to consider her words carefully before speaking. "Maybe you don't deserve to be in charge, Mia. You're an outsider. You'll never understand how things work here." Mia's hands clenched into fists, but she took a deep breath. "This ends now, Sandra. If you have an issue with me, we can talk about it professionally. But if you want to keep playing games, I'll expose you." Sandra's gaze softened, but there was no apology. "You won, Mia. But don't think this is over." Mia held her ground. "It is over. Not just for you, but for anyone who tries to undermine this company." Sandra walked out of the office, leaving Mia with the weight of her actions. Mia had won this battle, but she knew there were more obstacles ahead. People like Sandra weren't easily defeated, and the road to the top was filled with enemies, both seen and unseen. The weeks that followed were a blur. TechWorks' new product had its debut, and the launch event was a huge success. The media coverage was overwhelmingly positive, and investors were lining up to get a piece of the company's future. Mia was on top of the world, but she knew the battle wasn't over. In the corporate world, success was fleeting, and complacency was the enemy. Mia's phone buzzed with an email from Oliver. "We need to talk. Come to my office." Mia immediately felt the tension in her stomach. What now? Had the board changed their mind? Was there something wrong with the launch? She tried to shake off the worries as she walked to Oliver's office, but the uncertainty lingered. When she entered, Oliver was sitting behind his desk, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a look of concern. "Mia, there's something we need to address," he said, his voice low. "There's been an offer for TechWorks, one that could change everything." Mia's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" Oliver leaned forward. "A major tech firm is offering a buyout. They want to acquire TechWorks. And they're offering a lot of money, enough to make it difficult to say no." Mia froze. "A buyout? Why would we consider that?" Oliver sighed. "Because the offer is huge. It could change the entire landscape for the company. But I'm not sure it's the right move. I'm bringing this to you because I need your opinion. You've been the one leading us to this point. What do you think? Mia's mind raced. This was a turning point. A decision like this could either make or break her. She thought about all the work they'd put in to build TechWorks from the ground up. She couldn't just let it all be taken away. No, she said finally, her voice firm. We're not selling out. Not yet. We have something special here. We can keep growing. We'll figure out another way. Oliver nodded slowly. I thought you'd say that. It's going to be a tough road, but I'm with you, Mia. We're in this together. Mia left his office, the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders. She knew the next few months would be critical. But for the first time in a long while, Mia felt confident. She had faced every obstacle, every betrayal, and still come out on top. And she wasn't about to let anyone or anything stop her now. Mia had built TechWorks from the ground up, overcoming obstacles no one could have anticipated. She'd faced criticism, betrayal, and doubt from people who thought she didn't belong, but she had never once wavered in her belief in herself and her team. Now, as she stood in front of her team on the eve of the new product launch, she knew this was the moment she had worked for. This is it, Mia said, her voice steady as she looked around at the faces of the people who had supported her all along. We've built something incredible together. This product is a testament to everything we stand for: innovation, integrity, and a commitment to excellence. We've fought hard to get here, and we're not stopping now. The team clapped, some with tears in their eyes. Mia had come a long way from the janitor cleaning floors to standing at the helm of a multi-million-dollar tech company. The battle had been long, but it was worth every step. As she walked away from the podium, she realized that this wasn't just her victory. It was everyone's. TechWorks wasn't just a company. It was a family, a group of people who had come together to make the impossible happen. And they had done it. Mia's journey was far from over. But as she looked ahead, she knew one thing for sure: the world was hers to conquer. The story concludes with Mia having earned the respect and recognition she deserves, solidifying her place as a leader at TechWorks and proving that anyone can rise above their circumstances with determination and skill. The challenges are ongoing, but Mia now stands as a symbol of perseverance and success, ready for whatever the future holds. Let me know if you'd like to adjust any parts or continue developing other aspects of the story.